Everybody, I'm here today to chat to Nadine, and she is a florist and educator and mentor, and she's just based outside of Sydney. Nadine is a really strong advocate for sustainable floristry, and she creates lots of really useful tutorials via her Instagram. And some of them, even though I'm not a florist myself, I really find useful and interesting, seeing just really simple and innovative ways of doing floristry without using plastics. And she's also really passionate about lifting up other florists and really helping them create a business that's sustainable, profitable, and also is really creative as well. So, yeah, I first met Nadine, like a lot of people, a lot of creatives on here via Instagram. And I think it's a bit of a common theme. A lot of creatives tend to connect in spaces like this. It's like an easy way to meet up. And I also had a coaching session with her to do with my business. And we've also run a workshop together. And I think I felt like an instant connection with Nadine because I think we've got really similar values, like personal and business, about like our ethos around, just sustainable living and just being more green, and also operating in a way, our businesses that are really human and honest and kind of authentic and don't have that difference between when you're your work face and your personal face. And so I think that's kind of where that connection lies. I've got Nadine on today to have a chat about the topic of how to build a supportive community and a sustainable business model. And so even though Nadine is specifically in the floristry area, I'm wanting to kind of just ask general questions that relate to how we can all build a sustainable business and a really strong community. So yes, thank you, Nadine, for agreeing to come on today. I'm very grateful.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
so nice to be on here with you, honey. Feels just like a girl best friends chat.
Yes, definitely,
It's all the
definitely.
stuff we talk about anyway.
It is,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's a real pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. And so in the background, you can see where Nadine is. This is where we've run one of the workshops before together, and she runs them regularly each week. And it's the most incredible space. It's like a dream. It looks like something out of a storybook. There's ivy growing everywhere, and there's little bits of
Yes,
light coming
there
through.
is.
And yeah, like it's lush. There's always flowers and vases and plants and stuff growing. Yeah, so it's definitely got a real feeling about it. It's a true reflection of you and your brand, and your personality. Um,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
very lucky to call this my office every day. Yeah, it really is my favorite place to be. Um, Little 100-year-old shed that's a bit rickety and really held up by the ivy, I think. I
Yeah,
think that's what's
definitely.
holding it all together.
But such a great space to work in. I think that not working in a white box when you're creative is yeah, it's so good
Yeah,
for your creativity.
100%. Yeah.
I love you to give me an idea for people listening, like a little bit about your business and how it's structured, because when you kind of read your Instagram profile and also your website, you've got a lot of things going on. So could you kind of break down how that kind of what percentage of is what and how you kind of balance those?
Yep. I guess I have a balance of in-person and online business these days. I still really love in-person, and if I can, create retreats and experiences both here in the greenhouse and elsewhere, beautiful locations, then I still really love that, although it is a smaller part of my business these days. And within my mentoring and coaching, which I really love, but that's more of a one-on-one based and usually online, although I do offer sessions in here as sort of business/design coaching and training. But the biggest part, I guess, of my business is my online membership, which is probably my big baby, the one that I work really hard on, and obviously is the element of my business that can be scalable. So, when you're a one-man band, woman band, you know, I think to have some element of scalability in your business is really important if you want to, if your goal and your version of success is to grow your revenue in a way that you can't with, hours spent per one person. And it also allows me to make a bigger impact, which is obviously my main thing, is to be able to, you know, like bring natural floristry back to the fore. And it's, I guess, something that and I'm sure we'll talk about sustainability later, but it's something that people, I don't think, really understand, is how unsustainable and how non-earth conscious a lot of floristry is. And so, on my mission, I guess, is to be able to help women create a really aligned and, I don't know, heartfelt business that is a reflection of their values, but also is profitable and sustainable in the way they run it, but also sustainable for the planet, which is the very nature we work with every day as a designer, and it's how we can do that in respect for that nature and those blooms that we're using. And so, I guess that's
I love that.
really
I love that, how
kind of the way I've created it.
it's such a it's such a good point about the fact that being a florist, you are working so closely with nature, and how the old school way of doing things is so removed, like the products and things that you use. So it's an interesting thing. It seems like it makes so much sense to think like that, doesn't it? But it's not how the majority,
It does.
or how the kind of standard floristry works. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was that florist for a very, very long time. You can't be in an industry for 30 years and not have used all those plastics, imported flowers, floral foam, all the things that are really harmful to the environment and to nature.
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess I come across from as much as I possibly can from no judgment. I was that person. I was that florist working in that way. But now that I'm on the other side, and I'm just so aware of the way I used to think, but how important it is for us all to kind of move away from that. And we have to become like every business,
Yes.
every business has got a sustainability,
Yes.
program or something now, like they should have. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Great.
much what I do.
Thank you. So when I kind of observe everything that you do online, like on your website and on Instagram, it sort of looks like you've got a really strong and supportive community, and that kind of engagement. I feel like it's really clear that you've got the sort of group of people around you that really love what you do. I'd love to know, from giving advice to other business owners, even outside the floristry industry, how you kind of like sort of tips and ideas on how to sort of build that sense of community where it doesn't feel like it's like, oh, you just got people on board so that you can make money off them, but it's like genuine connection, but also without burning out, because obviously being that person in that community role who's sort of there to answer people's questions and be so helpful, sometimes it can probably be easy to sort of feel exhausted from it. So I'd love to know sort of some tips on ways to sort of build a community, so then it doesn't ever feel like you're selling to people. It just it feels more organic.
Yep. I think the first part of that, I was thinking about that this morning, is the fact that I was craving that for myself, because I'd had my retail space for the first part of my career, very interactive, like any retail is. Then I went into formal teaching for 17 years, so in front of a classroom, you're getting that instant feedback and that personal connection. And then when I left that to start, this sort of what's evolved into the Ivy Institute is predominantly online, I was craving that for myself. It was like, how can I need that more than they do, kind of thing. So it was like, how can I create an online business that's as high touch and as personal as it probably possibly can be? And so there was a few different ways that I did that. I think one of the important factors, I think, is just showing up consistently. Like, you really have to put yourself out there. You have to get in front of the camera. You have to speak your words, not just have them written in a text. Like, you have to, and if you have got issues with that, like many women do, I love making the thing, but I don't like showing up. It's not showing up to sell it. It's just showing up to share what you have, and the goodness you have to share, and changing your mindset around that to be, if I just keep it to myself, then it's of no benefit to anyone and it's not helping anyone. So that, rather than feeling like you're selling, you're actually offering somebody an opportunity to grow or to expand or learn, and how dare you keep that gift for yourself? Like, I just think if you can kind of, it makes it more about them then and not you just lining your own pocket, I guess. Um, and so a few different ways that I did that. Well, yeah, one is showing up and being consistently doing that so people build that trust around you and feel that they're talking to the person and not just a brand. And another way that I did that was community classes. So, and I highly recommend people do this if you've got a business where you can have the opportunity to interact with people. This came out of, 2020, the year that was, and I just felt like people needed to gather together. They needed to reconnect with each other and they needed to reconnect to their creativity. But I could see that they were also really craving connecting with nature. And the floral industry had an explosion over that time, and which was really fascinating to me because especially when weddings and events had been wiped off the calendars for everybody, people returned back to nature. They planted in their gardens. They sent flowers to their friends. It was just this innate, like in crisis, the human psyche went back to the earth in some capacity. I thought that was really fascinating and interesting. And so I created these community classes that were once a month, and a pay as you feel, just a pay what you feel. So that obviously runs the risk of no one paying. That's fine. It wasn't about making money. It was just about gathering predominantly women together, and they would pay me either in cash or bring me wine and a pumpkin out of their garden or some honey or whatever. And I'd make soup and hot bread, and I'd forage for most of my materials. Like, from a business point of view, I get that you can't, invest in a ton of product for something that you can't necessarily maybe afford, and you don't know the return you're going to get. So it was a different design every time. I never told them what they were making. I thought people would mind that they didn't know what they were making. They did not care. They just wanted to come, gather, make something with their hands, chit chat about general stuff, and skip out. And they absolutely loved it. And I really thought, like, that was just a little bit of my time. I really enjoyed it myself, and I was sharing this beautiful space with people. And if you have an opportunity to do some sort of community night within your business, I highly recommend that you do. And it's very interesting how generous people are when you don't put a price on what you're offering them. Like, sometimes there'd be hundreds and hundreds of dollars in that little bowl that I would never have charged that much for that experience. But when you let the person decide the value, very interesting to see what people sort of come up with. So that was another thing that I think, if you can, and I'm really happy to help someone set that up if you want. There's a few little things that make it easier, but that was really good. And I think when I started creating the online, especially the membership, I wanted that to be as high touch as possible and as connected as possible. So I have, a live that I run every month, and we have an online chat. And I know those things are available in other things, but I guess I just want to make sure that I'm really available and visible. But yes, you do need to set perimeters around your time with that. Like, I totally get that. I don't answer those chats anytime after 4:00. I don't, I go for the hour when we do the live. They've still got questions. I'm like, let's all save that for next month and wrap it up. Like, I'm mindful that I'm not just leeching out my energy 24/7.
And do you think that you've gotten better at that over time? Do you think that, did you allow things to go a bit more over, and then you're through experience, you've sort of refined that? Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And you can do it in a way that's not cutting people short. It's just, actually, I've got so much more I want to share, but let's save it for next month because...
Yeah. Yeah.
and people were like, oh, yes, no problem.
Yes.
They're not
Yeah.
feeling like
You're not
you're
saying no,
just,
you're just saying next time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Yes. Yeah. I'm really loving that the idea of the community events. It's really got my mind going as well for my business, and also because I've got a studio space now in a town, so it means that they've got that accessibility, and it's just an interesting. I'd always wondered how you make them work. I love the looseness of it and the fact that because I feel the same way. Because I've got an online course and it's the same thing. Like I feel really like I don't have that community aspect to it. So it's like people sign up, and I don't have that human touch. Whereas I used to run, much more workshops in person, and so I get that juice, that creative connection from when
Yeah,
you're helping someone, and and that human side, and I really miss that. And so yeah, I think I might take that on board. So thank
yeah,
you.
you could
Yeah, yeah,
easily. I just used to run it on Instagram. Just a Canva tile, community classes are back on. This is the date, this is the time, 2 hours on a Wednesday night, a night that suited me.
yes,
I was making soup for my family anyway. Like sometimes I'll do a salad if it's, different time of year. You wouldn't even have to do it every month. I
yes.
I haven't done it even as much this year because I've been too busy, and the girls are like, that's okay. Whenever you're ready, we'll be back.
Yeah. So do you get the
Um,
same, do you get regular people coming more than
It has
new
been, but
people?
I was really mindful at the start because I had somebody ask could they book in for the whole year,
Ah, okay.
and
Yeah.
I said no. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you can't. This is a first in basis because
Yes.
how it felt for me was just energetically, the people that saw it were the ones that needed to come.
I agree. That's a great
And
way.
so I'd put it up on Instagram, DM me for your spot. The first ones that DM'd, get their phone number, write them down in the book, and I take seven people, and that's it. Because that's all
Amazing.
that I can comfortably have in the studio. I have done bigger ones. One day I'll just let it run and it went to 15. And I do have another space, you've worked with me
Yes.
in that other space up at the barn. But what was really interesting about that is that, of course, it turned into a full-fledged workshop. There was a lot of product that I provided. There was none of this lovely, intimate banter. It was just
Yes.
someone talking to their friend. And it was harder to manage. Obviously, it was more expensive for me to run as far as food and all of that kind of thing. And if I want to talk about it from a business point of view of what I received, I actually got way less that night than I do when I've got my 7. So I was just like, okay, that's never happening again. I'm just going to
Yes. Yeah,
run my
yeah.
7 in here. That's it. And they drive up, they walk in, they tell me how they want to bring their bed and just live here. And 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 pop their money. I just put it in a timber bowls that you can't see. Like it's
Yes.
just I don't even see them do it. I don't even know
Yes.
when they put their little envelope in or whatever. I don't know who pays. I don't know who doesn't. I don't know how much anyone's given me unless they give me a pumpkin.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's and not all those ladies, if I was to be really honest, not all those ladies have joined my programs or whatever. This is very community based, and what I
Mm.
deliver is far more business and I guess more high end skills in what I do. But again, it was never about that. It
Yeah.
was just giving the gift of nature and creativity to people who
Yeah.
really loved it and wanted it. So in saying that, though, I do have probably a core of 5 women who I swear have my Instagram on like priority or something because as soon as I'd put it up, they were the first ones to book in. I think, oh, well,
Yeah.
I've got my
Yeah.
same ladies who I loved
Yeah.
anyway. Like they're my girls. And, and they're the ones that are most generous because they really, really appreciate being here. So,
Yes. Yeah.
so that's how that sort of worked. But you could easily do that for just a tiny get to know your camera or
Yes.
a little take portraits of each other or something that's really small. But for you, the right people would be craving that next level of education.
Yes. Yeah.
My ladies aren't going out and starting a florist business. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But
Yeah, they're having fun.
yours,
Yeah.
yeah, but yours could potentially would be a really lovely sandpit
Yeah.
into your
Love it.
course potentially,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's just time. It's
Yes.
just time that you're allocating, away from
Yeah.
your family, and I get that.
Yeah. 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 I think it's just that I think it's all about the intention with what you were talking about. So it's
Mm,
the going in there with that open heart. You just want to have a connection with people and
yep.
not have a strings attached or an outcome. And I think that's where the
Yeah.
magic lies in it, and having that small group. So I think there's a lot to take away from that
Yeah.
I feel really inspired by.
Yeah, it felt really joyful. And I've recommended like a lot of my retail florists to do this. Like I see how that model just would work so, so well in the retail
It would.
space,
Well, I think any
similar
retail
to you.
space, having people coming into whether it
That's
was
like
like,
instant
I
customers.
know even though like a coffee shop, you could have people coming in
Yeah.
and like, okay, this is how you make, like do like an art on the coffee. So you're never giving up someone making
All your
coffee because someone,
secrets.
yeah,
No.
exactly. It's just you're all, some type of like, I don't know, whether it's like a clothes shop that you're coming in and it's like, okay, this is how you'd style stuff for the day. And it's like you're not, I think it's like that mindset about not thinking that you're giving up on your potential customers or giving them too much that they wouldn't come back to you. You're just being
No.
generous and open, and a way of building community and also raving fans. It's like
That is.
those women may not book with you onto one of your memberships, but they might know someone
They tell everyone else how great
that
you
you don't
are.
even know who's come to you
Yeah.
indirectly through them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
And if you've
special. I
got
think it's
product for sale in that space, at the time actually when I first started doing this, I was still doing I had my own candle scent made by a local candle maker, and they were in beautiful little ceramic, sort of like these little ceramic cups that could be used later as a coffee cup or a nut bowl or olive bowl or
yeah,
something. And I had those in here. They all sold in the first lesson because I had one burning, and she's, oh, I love that. It creates this feeling of they want to give back and they want to
yes,
reciprocate your time. And
yeah, the
so
generosity
if
that
you
you're
were in a
giving.
retail space, there is no chance that everyone would come and not pay you and not buy something. Like
Yeah,
that would be a given.
yes,
So
yeah.
yeah, you know, anyway,
I feel like it's a great,
that's a
yeah.
good,
I feel like
it's a
I
real,
think
I
it's just
think it's
such a
beautiful
great base.
community builder.
I
Yeah.
think it is too. Yeah, it's a really a good way to get energy flowing. I think when you're
Yeah.
feeling a little bit stagnant. I would love to know. So, because you've been running kind of a membership model for a while, and you're also really like in that kind of online space with how things work. As far as like, do you have any sort of predictions for the future about online learning? Because I know that there's a lot of for sort of standard online courses, I know there's a lot of information now about, the high percentage of people not finishing things without having that kind of accountability or that kind of human connection. And then, how sometimes membership models are quite taxing. Do you sort of see any kind of trends moving forward, or have you done any courses yourself or workshops or online courses where you think that, I think it's where the direction is heading for other business
Yeah,
owners?
I have. It
Yeah,
was a
okay.
massive, steep learning curve, I tell you. And it all came about again, another 2020 project. But I just to give you some context of how this created and how quickly I created it without like, all my knowledge behind me. 2020 happened, but 2019 I actually left formal teaching at TAFE. So great, steady job, good pay, all the things, educating, which I love. Lots of disalignment there. So after 17 years, I just knew that I needed to be able to teach in a way that was 100% more sustainable than what it was there. And the type of content I was creating was anyways, I won't go into the whole how stuck TAFE is in its ways. But anyway, I wanted to teach in a different way. And so I did that. And of course, 2020 happened. I lost all my weddings, all my workshops, everything that I was creating as this new business was done. My calendar was wiped. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. That was great timing. But what it did do was, and Rob, my husband, forever my biggest cheerleader, thank the Lord. He's always been there just be just so supportive. And probably 15 years ago, I was looking at, and I'd gone really deep into this, creating a online presence of, in my mind, creating designs down in the creek, like a bit Jamie Oliver in the bush kind of vibe. If everyone knows who Jamie Oliver is, I'm sure you do. He's a chef. So a bit like that, except with flowers instead of food. But the way that I'd be doing that was going to be burning them onto discs, printing out the labels, packaging them up, and posting them out. So thank goodness I waited for the internet to come along, because that just like hurts my brain thinking about how the logistics of putting that together. Anyways, I shelved it for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, but it was just like that. Anyway, so that happened, and Rob said to me, hey, why don't you do your online idea again? That was a good idea. You should do that now, like the internet. So I'm like, yeah, actually, I should do a membership. And so I invested in a whole bunch of learning, how to put a membership together, the platform it needed to be on, the way you deliver at launch, all the things. Found a film maker that I absolutely adore, which is Valerie Rideau, who we've worked together the whole time and created now over 70 tutorials that are all professionally filmed here inside the greenhouse and on the property. I wanted it to be very educational, but also really beautiful and cinematic to watch. So, of course, that came with a lovely high price tag as well. So, yeah, I did invest a lot of time, money, and energy into creating what I wanted that membership to be. And it's had some iterations as we've moved along. It's now 4 years old, so it's changed. It changed along the way, but I guess I just tried to pivot where I could see I could offer it in a better way, or at one point my platform wasn't big enough to house what I was creating, so I had to kick down my sandcastle and basically build it again from scratch. That nearly killed me. So it's not been easy by any means, but at the core of it has been creating a community space, and one that's very supportive, not toxic at all. And it has been really supportive and beautiful. But I do see memberships shifting, because I find that too, even though I'm as high touch as I can be in regards to, the monthly lives and the online group and all of that, there's this sense of, and I don't know if it's the way just our society is right now, but there's this sense of consuming without application. And I know mine's really beautiful to watch. So they tell me they binge it like a Netflix series while their husband's watching footy, and they love it. It's like, okay, great.
But, yeah.
But
did you do the work?
Did you make something? Did you use that technique to do something else? And because obviously I'm not sending them product to do it with, I'm just showing them, where they can get it from and all of those kind of things. That part of it, it's like, okay, well, if you think about it, they've still paid you money, they've still got nice feedback for it, but from a personal point of view, you want that transformation for people. Like, this is the whole reason you're giving your IP out. I've got 30 years worth of experience. Like, I want them to actually use it. And
Yes.
So I'm in that process now of exploring how to do that, whether I gamify it, whether I include a 3-week live challenge. I love the idea of that. I actually just did that recently with another designer in Canada, and I loved that format. She just showed up for 3 live sessions. She made a whole bunch of designs, and in the online group, we had a challenge every week where we had to adapt that new technique into some sort of design. And then at the end, there was a review session where you could send in one lovely piece that you'd made, and she, did a whole series of different times, being an international time zone, and gave you real time, 10, 15 minutes of her time to talk about your design elements, the materials you used, how you could do it better, and it was so fun. It was a short 3-week thing. I couldn't believe how obsessed I was about getting the work done. Like, I was just like, oh, I can't not be that person that signs up to this and then not does it.
Yes. I hear you. I'm exactly the same.
I want to be the star student that gets it all done, you know? I'm not competitive at all. Actually, I'm not. But the fact that people don't finish my stuff sometimes made me not want to be that person for her. So I was like, no, I am 100% showing up. And I loved it. And I thought, right, how can I integrate that into my offerings? Even my online courses, because I've got small courses that you can buy just on their own. So there's a shift coming. I can feel it, because I do see that there's a lot of commitment for someone to join a membership. Memberships are daunting for people, even though you can leave anytime and there's no contracts. I get that, one, people don't know if they've got the time to invest in it, so is it worth the money? And albeit my library's massive now, so that can be even a drawback when you have too much content, because people feel like they feel bad that they haven't got it done, and so they feel like they're wasting their money.
Yes.
And mine isn't set up like, say, a guitar membership where, you know, you're rubbish on day 1 and then by week 5 you can play a riff.
Yes. Yeah.
There's that beautiful progression.
Yeah.
So, you know, they get in the library and they can just pick that one off the shelf and that one off the shelf. And
maybe there needs to be more of a pathway so that you hold people hand through that process.
But I've got people coming in from such different skill sets. You've got, you know, florists that have been a florist for 20 years. They already know the basics and the design fundamentals. They want to go straight into the advanced design section, so I'm absolutely no expert at memberships.
But you've also put a lot of energy into them.
But I've learnt a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to see what people want. And, you know, last year I have some founding members, I think 25 or so founding members that have been with me from day 1.
That's beautiful.
And so last year I rang them all in January and said, I'm offering a free coaching call. Like, book one in. Here's the booking link. And not all of them did, but most of them did, and they loved that. Like, they said, oh, this is thank you so, so much. They just, you know, it was a half an hour. It wasn't, and it was really nice for me to catch up with them, but it gave me a lot of intel into what they're loving about it, what they feel like it might need. And that's exactly the people that I'll be calling in January this year to go, okay, there's a shift coming for the membership. Yes. What would be the most worthwhile for you, and what would make you stay? Like, why are you still staying 4 years in? Yes. And what would be really helpful for you, and just let them guide me to what I should do next with it, because I'm definitely not letting it go, because I love it, and I've created a lot of, you know, I'm very proud of the quality of it all, but it's sometimes hard to grow, if I'd be really honest. It's sometimes hard to grow memberships. Yeah.
I really, it's so valuable having that core group of people that you've got that, you know, I love that you've got that such deep connection with them, and then you're offering them value, and then they're giving it back again. So it's this mutual exchange of what's going on. And then, like, how good it feels to, like, I know I'd be the same, like, if someone, you know, had the offering of a call like you have, and I got to explain the things I loved about it, and then they gave me some help. Like, it's just such a lovely way of doing it. And then I feel like that those core members are probably a great reflection of the wider community. Like, they represent so many different areas of your business.
Yeah, they do. And, you know, they're the first ones to sign up to, like, Italy. You know, I'm going to Italy next year for a retreat. There's probably half of the women that are coming are greenhouse members. You know, so they've engaged mentoring sessions with me, and if they're, you know, as far as their lifetime spend, they're totally, well, they're your raving fans, right? And and you can't create those without giving of yourself.
Yes.
You don't get
Yes.
that just from an online course where there is no touch and feel. Like, so, so yeah, even with my online courses now, because I'm repurposing some of the content into some small bite-sized kind of online courses because I thought,
Hmm.
okay, that content really needs to be used in other ways. Like, how else can it do if that membership isn't got 5,000 members in it, which would be delightful,
Yes.
then what else can happen? And so there's sort of more of a stepping stone to get to the membership, which is my premium offering,
Yes.
and that's a lower price point. But again, you want to see that progression. And so that's where I
Mm.
think those little 3-week challenges could really be something that I could embed into those.
Yeah.
The people that have bought the course can come in at just a tiny upgrade, but it can be open to anyone to come and join that little challenge.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I really love the experience for myself. So I'm currently December when I sign off for everything and have a break. That's what I'll be doing in December and January, is just kind of nutting this out of how I can
Nice.
revamp things. Anyway, I've
Yes.
told you all my thoughts on what I'm doing.
No, I love it. I love that. And I also love that you're building the next version of what it is around what people want rather than just what you think people want, which is, I think, a big issue that we have sometimes in business as business owners. Like, we're always thinking, oh, I'd like to do this. And there's always that balance. Of course, you want to be able to do what you love in your job, but there's also, you have to be able to give the people, your audience and the people out there, you've got to check that that's actually what they want as well. So that
And
someone to actually buy your products.
where I've kind of learnt that
Yeah, yes,
is
definitely.
from someone we both have worked with in the past, Danny Gardner, the Quiet
Yes.
Create and the Quiet Marketer, and exploring human design, which I'm no expert at, but as a manifesting generator,
Yes.
I love creating content and I love creating things, but I had done that in the past, and I still have to check myself now in doing what I think they need rather than listening to what actually they want. And so that's part of that strategy for me, is to go, okay, where can I tap into what's universally getting talked about around me? Where can I tap into my audience that I already have and ask them what they want without just sending endless surveys?
Yes.
Where and that's what these kind of calls are. And the other thing that I do within the membership that I just remembered, I forgot about, is every month I just pull someone randomly off the list and tell them they're the monthly mini coaching call recipient.
Yeah.
Here's my Calendly link to book in a session, and it's just literally a 20-30 minute phone call, and I can do that in the car, I can do that anywhere. But they have been brilliant because
Wow. And are they shared so that other people can watch them, or are they just for
no,
that member?
just for that
Yep.
member.
That's amazing.
But it gives me, again, a lot of intel into what they're struggling with, just what I can help them with, a little bit of a story that I can share with other people, not with their names, but just, I had a chat to one of our members the other day, and she's really struggling with blah, blah, blah. And it's usually something that's universal, or, more than one person is.
Yes.
And so it just, again, gave me content and a way to connect deeply with my members, but a 20-minute call out of my time, which is nothing. But it gives me a lot of information. And so
it's
I'll
funny,
keep
like
doing them.
You say not an expert in the membership model, but you've created so many amazing touch points, like through, and it's all it's all about it's all about human connection. Like, you're giving value
definitely
all the time, and I think that's the big takeaway from the way you operate. It's just that, really, like, that's why people are drawn to you and why people stay, and why you do have that core community, because of all that giving, that generosity that you come from. Sustainability.
Thanks.
So I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So I think it's something I notice as far as I order a lot of things from small businesses online, not necessarily just floral stuff, but just, small companies, and often their packaging, comes in sustainable packaging and it's wrapped up in things I can compost. And what I notice is that like small businesses seem to be doing a great job of, doing green stuff, but I know how much it costs. And I've also had conversations with other business owners about like it's so expensive for them to do that way, whereas there's big companies out there that have got all the money in the world and they're still sending things without thinking about it. But it's there's all these amazing small business owners because they care and they've got heart. So I'd love to know like some tips that you have, I guess, about building sustainability into your business model, and then how you kind of price for that, so that you're not sort of doing yourself out of pocket kind of thing.
I guess there's three elements to sustainability for me, and I think this is something that I teach with my clients and everything that I do as well. Is you've got the ethical side of sustainability. So who are you supporting? So every decision I make, I think about who I'm buying it off and where's my money going. And I'm like you, I buy off as small people as much as I possibly can. So in floristry, that's buying locally grown flowers instead of buying an imported product that's exactly the same. It's like buying oranges from California or Australian oranges. Like, why wouldn't you be buying the Aussie ones, So
Yeah.
that sort of thing is who am I ultimately supporting at the end?
Yes.
The other one is environmental, obviously. So I'm using, as least amount of plastics as I possibly can. Thinking about, again, that circular economy, like when I purchase something, then I use it, then it goes to the client. Say, for instance, if I was still in retail, goes to client, to the customer, then what do they do with it? So have I created something beautiful in a way that it could go, every single thing could go into their compost bin, or they could reuse the vessel for something else. So that's Fantastic. The kind of message I try to give to my florist clients, is like, you have to think what happens to that design beyond you. And how is that going back to the earth? Because ultimately everything goes back to the earth, including us. So yes. In what way is it doing that? And then the other one,
like that way of thinking, as far as like I was just thinking like a really narrow view of kind of like, whereas you were talking about if you're stepping back from a wider perspective, it's like where you get that from and you touch it, and then everything that you do with it, and then where it ends up. That's the part that I wasn't thinking about, the circle part. I was just thinking about, I buy the thing and then give it to, so it's it's a much wider way of looking at it.
Yep. And then economical is the other E for sustainability. There's 3 E's. So the economical side of the thing can be the tricky part. Like that can be the sticky part. And I've had lots of like little, back and forths with florists on social media that would, totally bag out a florist that's buying imported flowers because, you should only buy local, and I only buy from 20 Ks for around my house, so they save on fuel and all that. But some florists are in a situation where they don't have access to flower growers. They don't have access to that product. They have to get imported products. Like, otherwise they don't have a business.
Yes.
We have to still do things that keep us in business. Like, you can't completely go down a road where you've priced yourself completely out of the market because of the choices that you're making of being sustainable, because then you haven't got a sustainable business. You've got a business that's doing a nice thing for the environment, but you're broke, and you can't feed your family, and that's not right either. So I guess I don't have sort of lines in the sand as far as that part goes, and I know the purists do, and they would argue with me on some of those points, but and I've done that to myself, like for instance with a wedding, for instance. Now in here I've got the luxury of going and getting my vessels from an op shop, which I do pretty much every workshop. Everyone just gets a surprise vessel to work in because I just go and get some things from the op shop, which I love anyway, and then I find some treasure for me to go on that shelf amongst my hoarding of vases. But for a wedding, which I was a wedding and event florist for many, many years, there's a price point you've got to stick to, and you've got 30 table centers to do, and you want most of the value to be in the flowers, not in the vessel. So can you afford to go and get handmade ceramic bowls for that? No, you can't. The bride just cannot see the value of a $50 vessel as opposed to the $5 glass one you can get from China. So would I prefer to use the $50 vessels for her? 100%. But now it's just priced way out of her budget, and she can't have flowers, and so I've lost the job.
Yeah.
So, there's moments where I think in business we have to make a economic decision to purchase a certain thing. But I always had in my mind, and what I recommend to, my clients that I'm mentoring, is there a better decision you can make somewhere else? Is there a charity that you could offer 1% of your profits to? Can you plant a tree for every wedding that you do? Is there something else you can do as a give back over here?
Yes.
for doing a not so good thing over here? Is there a way that you can give back? Is there other decisions that you're making along the way that you're changing? Yes, I'm using the glass, but this whole wedding doesn't use any floral foam, or this whole wedding is only using local product, or whatever. So
rather than being black and white about it, just figuring out how you make up for that, and not being so intense about it all. I think that's the same thing with any level of sustainability. I think when you first start learning about it, you can become quite intense and black and white. And then I think the longer and the more you read about all sorts of, the way you live and the way you run your business, is that things just aren't that black and white. Like, someone buys their flowers from overseas, it's like, doesn't mean that they're a bad person. They're just trying to survive. And it's like not being so kind of regimented.
I think we should need to stop being so judgmental on each other about it too, and for ourselves. We're all just trying to do our best, right? And
totally.
And the ignorant person doesn't mean that they're bad. They just don't know any better. And I didn't either. I was using all the stuff. So, and there's probably me 5 years down the track, I'm probably going to look at even some things I do now and think, oh God, I was doing that and I didn't even realize, So
and it's an evolution.
It's an evolution. I think we need to give grace to ourselves, to each other, and just help each other by sharing what we're doing. Like, hey, I just got rid of this out of my practice because of X, Y, Z, and now I'm doing this. This could be helpful for you too. I think that's the whole kind of where I'm coming from anyway. And for us as an industry, sustainable is actually way cheaper.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So
reusing things.
Yeah, and I remember seeing about a year or so ago, I was somewhere and I saw this gorgeous bouquet. It was just given to someone at the restaurant, and it was wrapped in brown paper, which I did for years, instead of cellophanes and plastics. But what was really gorgeous was there was a long strip, ribbons and are really in right now, but there was this long strip with frayed edges of a Liberty fabric, like a big wide. Now I quizzed her about that, and she said, I go to the op shop and get all the old fabric that's just, someone's wrapped up fabric, or a big old dress or whatever that no one's going to wear. was someone's nana's at some point.
Yes.
And she says she just shreds it and just ends up with all of these beautiful ribbons as fabric. And if you've been given flowers as a really a special occasion, which it usually is, what a gorgeous keepsake to have. Definitely. This beautiful little Liberty print, fabric. And I was just like, oh, genius.
Yeah, it is. And
if I was still in business, if I was still in business now in a retail space, I would 100% be doing that.
Yeah, love it.
So, there's so many things that are way cheaper than a, $5 a meter ribbon.
Yes. So it's really about being creative, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. And it doesn't have to be more expensive.
I would love to know if you have any advice, like one or two things that you think sort of would move the needle for people, for other business owners out there to sort of gain a few extra clients or customers. What's some sort of effective, things that you can just do that, yeah, just help to kind of gather some momentum? Hard question, maybe.
It is. I think it comes down to really knowing your mission and being very clear about what you want to bring into the world, and speaking from that in a really authentic way. Like, I feel like that type of messaging and conversation now is so shiny and bright for people because they're so used to getting just like the media and large corporations and things like that just feed them such BS that real authenticity is so shiny, and I don't know, really does stand out. So and it takes a lot. I'm still working on that now, and I help others to work on that too.
Yeah.
And it can be hard, but I think if there's a way that you can make your business as personal as it possibly can be, that's so important. Like, if I can give you an example from the floristry world, I suppose, is that something that happens in floristry with weddings is that the bride will go around and shop, I guess, say 5 different florists for a quote for wedding flowers. They go through the inquiry form and it's all online, and there's no high touch, there's no phone call, there's no nothing, there's an email back, all of that. And one of the biggest problems that florists have is this ghosting. They get the inquiry, they answer back, or they give them a quote, and then you don't hear a thing. And this seems to be this pain point for people. And it got me thinking, like, what did I do differently? Because I ran a wedding and events business for 20 years. And at the very beginning, obviously, there was no computer. It was all high touch, because that's the only way that people communicated back then. But what I did even then was, as soon as I got an inquiry, there was a phone call. And it only took like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was the phone call that we teed up when we were going to meet. And I used to do, meet in cafes, go to their home, whatever, to do the quote. Now, for that little bit of effort, I would get 99.9% of the quotes was an acceptance,
Yeah.
And I've said that to my girls now. Is there a way in that first initial connection, can you do something where it's a Zoom or a phone call or a personal voice note on a text, or anything that gets you to be more personalized and build that rapport as quickly as you possibly can? Because every other business they deal with in this process, the cake, the photographer, probably not you, the venue, everything is no personal touch.
Yes.
It's just
so that's
online.
What makes you stand out. Yes.
And so are they less likely to ghost you once they've had a conversation, you've had a little bit of banter, you've got excited for them, you're talking about how gorgeous May is, and tell me about your dress, and what's the chances they're going to book with you? Now, a very high percentage compared to what they're thinking about someone else. There's a whole lot of other factors involved in that. But I just think, from my experience from back then and how I can see that working now, is have a look at your customer flow from the moment they interact with you or how they find you. Is there an area through that whole flow to them actually purchasing from you or buying, spending their money with you? Is there somewhere in there that can, and I'm mindful of your time, but is there a space in there that can involve some kind of human connection, and rapport building?
Yes, I think it seems to be the same theme for you. That's what you do naturally. I think that's what's interesting. It's probably why for other people they find it a bit confusing because it's not innate. Like you have got that like really personable, and you also come from a position when you first started your business where that was really normal. And so
Yeah,
whereas some
totally
people
normal.
starting out only kind of recent, you know, maybe in the last 5 years, it's less normal to have that like where you get have a phone consult with someone. It's just like reply to an email, standard reply, blah blah blah. Here's the price. So having that, yeah, that
Yeah.
human connection is really something that we're all missing, which is those community classes that
It
you run.
stands out. Like
Yeah,
it
it does.
stands
Mm,
out so much. And,
mm,
they're about, for me, I don't do many weddings anymore, but they're about to spend thousands and thousands of dollars with you. There needs a real high level of trust to be able to do that.
yes.
They've never gone through this process before. So most likely when your client is buying from you, yeah, they've never done this before unless they're,
Mm,
especially in the wedding world.
yes.
Probably. I
Yeah.
have done a few. I've done a few remarriages down the
Yes.
track. Um, but even I totally agree with the online inquiry form. 100%. You want to
Mm,
refine and automate your process. I totally get that. But a way to get around that is just straight back after that is there's actually, for me to be able to give you a really detailed and more specified quote, it'd be great if we could get on a call because I've got a couple of extra questions I wanted to ask you.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Which
no
is
one's going to
perfect.
say no to that.
Yes. Yeah. Because you're
If
offering
they
to help.
if they are a tire kicker,
Mm,
for instance, then they're not going to get back to you. Then
exactly.
don't worry, you saved yourself a whole bunch of time and effort.
Yeah.
But if they are genuine, then that's the perfect little step to give them for them to really show you whether they're genuine. And I think it's also important that you have that moment, and you can easily do that over the phone, to work out whether that client's actually the right one for you.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. It goes both ways. Yeah.
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 And you can hear the way that what they're asking. You know that if they're wanting an absolute massive thing for the no money, the tiny
Mm,
budget, you can tell the type of style they want. You're like, yeah,
yes.
that's really my jam.
Yeah.
And you can easily say, look, I have got a booking on that date, um,
Yes.
but I'm really happy to refer you to someone else that will be able to help you. Here's this
Yeah.
other business.
Yeah. So you've got a way
Um,
out.
yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you do that online?
Yes. So true.
You can't do that at all. Next minute, you're way too deep in and you can't get back
Mm,
out of something that you actually don't want to do.
yes.
So yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice, I
Yeah.
reckon.
Love it.
Just keep it personal.
I'd love to know what is next. What are you excited about in your business, Nadine, moving
Oh,
forward?
lots, actually.
Yes.
I've got a lot on.
Good.
One of them is going to Italy next year.
I was hoping you'd
Um,
mention that.
can we say? Are we
Yes.
allowed to say?
Yes. Yes.
And Honey, right here, is joining me as my photographer, videographer, and also conducting a workshop over there for our attendees for photography workshops. So we're just a little bit excited to go, aren't we?
So excited. Yeah. And funnily enough, Nadine, she remembers me mentioning a few years ago, I mentioned maybe it was online and maybe also in person that it's my dream I really was putting it out there to the universe and also publicly, like if I'd love to do work in Italy sometime. And Nadine remembered that. So, because you said that, didn't you? That it stuck in your
Yeah,
mind.
I
Yeah.
just, and I knew as soon as I was putting it together, and it's something I've been thinking about for a while because it's just one of my favorite places in the world to be. And yeah, I just knew that I thought, who would I want to come with me? I was like, Honey has to come to this. I hope she can come. So I love the way we work together, and I know that, yeah, we're going to create magic together in that beautiful place. So I'm very excited about that in May. I've got MIFGAS coming up in March, which is the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. They've Last year I was brought in as their sustainability consultant and educator for the show because they've moved it for the very first time, into a more sustainable space, and which is huge for us as an industry because it's our largest show. It's over 100,000 people go through the show, And for us as an industry, floristry, it's probably our biggest platform and the place that can make the most change. So to be given that role of rewriting the judging criteria across the whole show to include an environmental impact section, like that was such an honour and something I'm really proud of doing. So this year I'll come, obviously was one and done, you know, that's been created and doesn't need doing again, but I'll be coming in a different capacity this year, running some events, industry style panel type events that I'm just putting together now. So we don't really have that as an industry at the moment, places that we can gather together and learn off each other and kind of listen to designers that are quite well known. So yeah, I would really like to host and create that sort of environment for us. Again, back to the whole personal theme, isn't it? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Wonderful, yeah.
I'd like to do another 2-day workshop in Tassie next year at the end of the year. That's a place I love, and so I'd love to go back down there and do a really wedding-focused event down there. Build my greenhouse up even more, and I've just partner with someone little creative who's actually creating a CRM for me for the wedding florist client who wants to be able to take their brides through a really, again, beautiful, high touch automated sequence that's very professional and has inquiry form, proposals, payment gateways, everything attached, which seems to be something that's not readily available for the wedding florist. So I'm currently collaborating with an online digital creator who's building that out. So that will be ready to launch in January. That's the hot scoop. I haven't talked about this to anyone yet.
That's amazing. You've got so many different things going on.
Oh yes, and then I've got a very exciting project in Melbourne, which we're releasing very soon too, which is another collaboration. Actually, the start of this year, collaboration just kept coming up for me, you know, when you're thinking about your words for the year. I don't know if anyone else does that. And partnerships and collaborations just seem to be like, I think where I consciously wanted to go, but it just seemed to keep popping up. And this whole year, even up until this last recent one that just literally came out of thin air, has been just partnerships and collaborations with other amazing women. And I've just embraced them all. Like, it's just been so fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. And the projects that have come out of it have been things that I hadn't even dreamed up. They're just like morphing on their own. And so, yeah, I've just become a real advocate for partnerships and collaborations now. I mean, I've done that obviously in the past with you and with lots of other people. Every year I do some sort of collaboration, but this year has really opened up. Yeah, lots of different partnerships and things that I didn't even realize were available or just can ask, you know, just reach out to people.
That energy, I think when you work by yourself all the time, it's so important to have that energy exchange with other creatives, not necessarily just with your clients, so that you're kind of seeing like bigger ideas and pictures that you just never could have imagined yourself. And then the two people to combine, that energy is really special.
Yeah, rising up each other, definitely. Yeah.
So where is the best place to find you, Nadine? Online?
Instagram, I love that platform still. I know it's got some quirky things going on at the moment that's a bit hard to be seen, but I still really love it. So that's _Ivy Institute, the Ivy Institute.com.au, my website, which houses all the things.
Yes.
It's a big house. It's a big it's a big mansion now. And Nadine at theivyinstitute.com.au for email if you want to get in touch. Really happy to help
Well, thank you.
all sorts of businesses. That doesn't have to be just floristry, but I guess,
Yes.
sustainably focused
Yeah. Well,
businesses
we've
is
had a
kind of who
conversation
I,
too.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's exactly right.
Creatives that have that
Mm.
kind of
Yeah.
ethos, I think, really gel.
Yes. Yeah, well, thank you for your time. I'm so grateful.
Thanks so much for having me. I've had a blast.
Thanks, Nadine.
Thanks, Sunny.